Welcome back to another episode of Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast. I'm your host, Lars.
And I'm Patrick.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking progressive Trek, as in the progressive nature of Star Trek.
Yeah.
That was so bad.
More or less with everything getting politicized now on TV and movies and everything, the Star Trek franchise and its vision of this progressive, optimistic future is going to, of course, draw a lot of fire for anything. So, we're going to talk about it in brief because there are so many things about its progressive nature, about sexuality, all the things. I mean, we've literally watched 8 hours. We literally watched 8 hours. I don't know if you watched it all, but I've watched 8 hours of Jessie Gender and her exploration of Trek, and that's just through TOS and TNG.
Yeah.
She hasn't gotten to boning on DS9 and shit.
I haven't actually, I didn't know who Jessie Gender was until you had brought her to my attention, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And of course, immediately the first thing out of my mouth was like, is she trans? And you're like,
hold on a second. What's playing there?
What's playing where?
Hold on. Oh, that's on my end. Sorry about that. Somehow something got hit on this end. Sorry.
Something crossed.
Yep. Okay, we're good.
At least it didn't come through on this end, which is
not my fault this time. It's completely my fault this time, not you messing up again.
Is it the Star Trek porn coming through?
No, something completely different. Instead of talking politics, talking religion. So just as
okay,
disastrous. But we could talk religion and Trek another day.
Yeah.
So
because I still want to know what God needs with a starship. Yeah. So I had asked you, is she trans? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yes.
Let me check this out. Because that's the one thing I've never really explored as part of my fandom in Star Trek is. I mean, I'm open-minded, I'm very supportive of the LGBTQIA plus community, but I don't have a lot of experience with it. So, I am a cis white male, and pretty much I'm like...
And straight. Don't forget the straight part.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Yeah, and I'm straight. So...
You check all the boxes.
Yeah. My experience with that side of things is I have little personal experience, but... I still support it. So being able to, like you putting me onto her videos, I was like, oh, this is very interesting. This is actually really entertaining and informational. So yeah, I mean.
And holy shit, I didn't know that Gene was really that into alien sex organs. Damn.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry has got to be like the Benjamin Franklin of TV. Like the dude was just whoring around and he just loved exposing people's junk.
I'm sure his own too, a little bit here and there, but oh well, we won't get into that too long. But the main thing we're talking about today is the progressive nature of it. I mean, it started back in the first pilot. I mean, here was of course it had the dashing straight white man lead. But backing him up was a woman as first officer, and of course an alien who looked almost devilish by 60 standards. And they literally fought when Gene Roddenberry was trying to they wanted both of those characters gone. So number one, played by Majel Barrett, was unceremoniously booted, but they managed to keep Spock, who eventually evolved into being coded as neurodivergent and could be seen as queer and trans. You could pack a lot of things into Spock because he didn't fit into where he was, and he didn't fit into his culture, and he didn't fit into this and fit into that.
Yeah, and given the political, I should say not the political, but mostly the social dynamic of the late 1960s, homosexuality was still considered a crime in a lot of areas. So given the fact that you had a character who was center stage, who fit the bill of not fitting in, that spoke on so many levels to people who of different lifestyles, different sexual orientations, and whatnot. So yeah, as you said, he evolved into basically a representation of people from, I don't want to say alternate lifestyles. I'm not that ignorant. I'm ignorant on a lot of things, but not that. But anyways, he became a representative for those guys.
He was very much queer coded in different ways, neurodivergent coded. A lot of those things were all built into this character. Maybe not intentionally, but Nimoy and those that followed him all built aspects of this into the character.
And you mentioned
it expanded.
Yeah, and you mentioned queer about this. And it's a lot of people think queer, at least when we were growing up, queer was a synonym or another word for somebody who was a homosexual. But realistically, the word queer means something technically out of the ordinary. And while I'm not saying it's not normal, it just wasn't what normal was in the 1960s.
Right. And side note, from here out, I will probably just use queer rather than having to go through and recite the LGBTQIA plus, because it's a lot quicker to get one syllable out, to be blunt.
Funny. The funny thing is that what's really funny is that the LGBTQI plus is like
you missed one.
I said IA plus. Thank you.
I didn't hear the A.
At least I couldn't say iPad plus or iPod plus, but never mind. I'm not. The whole thing
We're going
is
straight hell for that one.
It is a group that it's not really an acronym, but the letter sequence is becoming longer and longer and becoming more inclusive, which means that there are more people who are free to express themselves and be what they want to be. Which, of course, a lot of what Gene Roddenberry did with the original series is allowed that social commentary to take center stage without it taking center stage.
I mean, George Takei dancing around in his shirt with a rapier, that was a little gay. That was a lot gay.
Yeah, it was very
flamboyant. Sulu on the original series was great, but there was a little coding here and there.
Right.
Which, of course, George Takei brought to that one. So, but while we're talking about him, after having to recast, though, Roddenberry brought in the characters of Sulu, Uhura, and then in second season, despite Khan remembering him, Chekhov, which was Japanese, black woman, and
Russian.
A Russian character during the height of the Cold War.
Yeah, showing that the future was indeed a much broader and more inclusive place for people to be free to be who they are. The idea of a Cold War amongst humans on Earth was completely unheard of. It was a very antiquated and outdated concept.
Unlike women not being captains, which episode was that one? I know there was an episode where woman was all hysterical because she couldn't be a captain. Yes, that was part of progressive Star Trek.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot that one. I don't even remember the title of it, but I
Which one? Hold on.
But the thing is,
I'll find out while you're talking.
Yeah, it does actually go to say that while Gene and the other writers, the prolific writers like Gene L. Kuhn and D.C. Fontana, while they wrote stories that were, again, highlighted a lot of the social inequities, they still had to fit inside a bit of a box that fit with the culture of the 1960s, because you couldn't alienate your viewers completely. You could present them with social, political...
Piss off the straights and basically you couldn't piss off the straights and the FCC and all those assholes and the religious nuts.
I'm sure they did anyways, but they still had to appeal to the larger, broader audience.
Side note, that episode was Turnabout Intruder.
Oh, wow. That's like the last episode. That's like the very last
episode. Was. I thought that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, it's where Dr. Janice Lester takes over Kirk's body so she can command a starship. And sadly, they couldn't do so. I yeah. So yeah, Trek had its ups and downs trying to portray this progressive future. Obviously, they could only have the most minimally coded queer characters. They managed to get that interracial kiss between Kirk and Uhura in, partially because Shatner screwed every take except the one with the kiss in it.
Yeah, and the thing is, remember
That is a great story.
Remember, the other thing is, it really wasn't. It wasn't supposed to be Kirk and Uhura having that kiss. It was supposed to be Spock, but Shatner threw a patty.
Well, it's Shatner. Although I'll give him credit in this case, that's a good thing, because you could kind of ignore it as being interracial if it's an alien, which Spock was represented as, which Spock was such. So it wasn't quite white-black kiss. Fair in that case.
That's true. That is definitely true.
So, yeah, those are the things. Those are a lot of the things we saw. Even something as that we now mock as the male gazy thing as the miniskirt, an idea of Grace Lee Whitney to show off her legs. But it was also a sign of women's empowerment, because we could wear this stuff and also be competent.
Right, exactly. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, there should be there. You know, we can say now, 50 plus years later, like 56 years later, that the whole thing with Star Trek is that yes, it was very much designed to give people a lot more power in expressing themselves in society. But at the same time, there's still that, I don't know, there's still that line there where it still had to be not chauvinistic, but sexist. You know, because women can't be smart, you know. So, the part of Star Trek, I guess, that I like the most is the fact that, you know, along with its progressive nature, it has also been a place where people who have been marginalized their entire lives are welcomed and can be empowered.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me. I'm a nerd.
And
I've been a nerd all my life.
Yeah. Although, let's be honest, nerd culture is kind of taken over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's not. Now nothing we do is nerdy anymore.
Yeah. Now it's not edgy and cool. Now we're nerdy dinosaurs, man.
Yep. So yeah, Gene Roddenberry pretty much, other than injecting everything with we gotta have hot women and and if their clothing could fall off in a stiff breeze, that's even better.
Well, yeah, look at the one of Diana Muldaur's characters, man. Whew.
Yeah.
I mean, like they had they had a hairdo and they had and a smile and little else.
Well, there was enough fabric to cover all the bits, but that's about it. And that carried even into TNG, the early years, which were pretty much Gene Roddenberry controlled. I forget I'm trying to remember the episodes because we didn't do a whole lot of research, but we have been kind of looking into this for a while, so we kind of just wanted to cover it. The episode, you know, the one where Wesley almost gets executed for falling on plants.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if that was the.
Is that Haven or
Haven.
No? Not Haven.
Yes, it's Haven because
it is Haven.
Because I was trying to think if it was Angel 1, but I think Angel is.
That's the one where Riker gets to wear the sexy shirt and all the women are dominant or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which of course was kind of an attempt to show it all a matriarchal world. Still came off better than trying to show an all-black world code of honor.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the TNG, DS9, Voy, Enterprise. And yes, we're calling it Voy because, yeah, we are always going to call it Voy from now on because that's what Boimler called it, and it doesn't get any better than that.
Yep.
Now, I would say you see a lot of the sex that Gene Roddenberry tend to throw in really in the first couple seasons, and then as he moved out and it became more Rick Berman running the shows, and then all the shows after that, we did see it got. I don't know if it got. It seems that the '60s Trek, the original series, was a little more progressive than we saw in Next Generation. Although they had all the trappings, the look at this. This is we have a society where we don't really need money, which of course presented problems when you get on DS9, but that's beside the point.
I think that's wonderful that that in the recent episode of Lower Decks, they openly mock that, given the fact that Boimler makes a whole shit ton of money, and then turns around and takes a like a Quark Bucks gift card for twice his platinum value because they don't need money in Starfleet anyway. So yeah,
that's just a glorious piss take of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the history of Trek has always come up with great ideas and then pull back a little bit because you don't want to push it too far. One of probably the most queer episode of TNG. Which one was it here? The Outcast, where Riker falls in love with one of the people on the planet. It's the planet where they are genderless, and the one develops a gender.
Right.
I think he'd actually. Let me find that information. I think Jonathan Frakes actually was hoping that the character would have been played by a man instead of a woman. So in the hopes that it would have really cranked the gay up in the episode, to be blunt.
Well, yeah, but also to show that you don't necessarily have to have specifically male characteristics or female characteristics to be attractive.
Yeah, and mind you, the character was the genderless showing female traits was played by a female.
Right, and that was probably
another example of idea pull back to try to make it acceptable.
Right, and the thing is that on a slightly, I guess, Star Trek adjacent example is from the Orville, and where they have a race of people known as the Moclans, and no matter what gender they're like, if they are born male, of course they stay male. If they're born female, they are forcibly transitioned as an infant to be male. So that the species is only populated by males. Of course, this gets explored more and more, where it comes to find out that several females were able to be
transitioned back to female.
Well, I mean, like they were born female, and they were taken away and kept away in isolation, so that they could live their lives and grow up as female.
Okay.
And then there's even there's a primary. This is a spoiler.
The one
alert.
character on the show who is born, forcibly transitioned to male, and then transitions back to female.
Correct. Yeah, and that was Bortus and Clyden's daughter, Torpa.
Yep.
Torpa.
Yep. Yeah. Side note: I've never seen the show, but I know about that. Again, thanks Jesse for filling me in on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So obviously in this era they're trying to cover some of the things that they didn't. Obviously, none of any characters that were with the exception of obvious alien metaphor characters, most of the characters don't explore any queer relationships. The exception obviously, Jadzia Dax in one episode where another joined Trill who Dax had a relationship in a prior life now meets again, and they start to have another relationship, except that now both of them are female. So
well, and they actually kind of did cover that a little bit in TNG when we were first introduced to the race of the Trill. There is a Trill.
They failed.
there's a Trill representative that comes in. The Trill host is a male. He ends up, having a relationship with Beverly Crusher. Something happens, and that host dies. They were able to move the symbiote into another body. And
Riker, to be exact, first.
Yeah, right, but then they move it to a female, and they have a moment at the end of the episode to show, and I believe they share a kiss, and that's to show that, there is that blurring of the lines that happens with a species like that, and that can happen. And of course, like you said, they explore it in greater detail in DS9.
But obviously they fail here because, I can't do this. Maybe one day humans will be able to be this way, but not now in the 24th century.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta give them credit, because that's the problem. Okay, that is one of the biggest problems we face as creators. When you're trying to portray a progressive future, but you are still stuck in a repressive present.
Yeah. Thankfully, the Kurtzman era did away with that. I mean, to get back to some of the things that the Berman era, and I'll just call it that because that's basically after Gene Roddenberry, Rick Berman was pretty much the primary guy. It bounced to other people, but it stayed with that. You had a little more diversity, although Star Trek has always had some diversity of writers. David Gerrold was gay. DC Fontana was a woman. They got a little bit better as they went along. I mean, obviously, they were trying to get more diversity. With DS9, we get Benjamin Sisko, Voy, we get Catherine Janeway. Enterprise, we get a boys' club with a couple women here and there, sprinkled in here and there.
Yeah, that's right. Because
of course, I think they were trying to reflect that they were trying to reflect something before the original series. So,
well, yeah, they were trying to show that they were
Enterprise white
that united, that Earth had united, and that the idea of exploring space was a multicultural thing. But of course, again, it's
a sausage fest mostly.
Yeah, it's predominantly either white or male or both.
Yep. With some homophobia thrown in here and there. Oh no, cross-dressers. Ew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was an episode.
Yeah, and then
of course, definitely a holdover from definitely a holder from the Gene era is Deanna Troi, specifically these three: Deanna Troi, 7 of 9, and T'Pol. Cast very much for their
female
assets.
Attributes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, okay, so Deanna Troi, I mean, yes, very much. Gene was very much involved in that decision. With 7 of 9, yeah, so she was brought in specifically to cater to the male audience, to bring back the male audience, to get more male viewers, and of course, as we always
kind of pissed off Cade Mulgrew in a bad way.
And we've always noticed that have always known that sex sells. And T'Pol was the character of T'Pol, or Jolene Blaylock, was cast in that role specifically to fill that purpose for Enterprise, to get them right out the gate. They knew that Jerry Ryan, being 7 of 9, had a huge impact on the numbers for Voy, that they figured they better follow that recipe going into Enterprise, because that was going to help them be successful. Although it did very little to prevent them from being canceled.
Although to be fair, 7 of 9 and T'Pol did have good writing, and Deanna Troi, after Captain Jellicoe told her to put a damn uniform on, all three of those characters were more well written. Obviously, Troi before, all the way through the end, unfortunately, tended to be the one who got raped or mind raped or something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a rough spot for the character. But when you mentioned good writing for 7 of 9, I would say as much as I am
Got better.
as much as I am a huge non-fan of Picard right now, they did do really good writing for Seven of Nine, as she appears in the Picard series.
The point is the characters all the female characters as we went along got better written and better written. I mean, the obvious one I left off the list was Jadzia Dax. Also, because I've been watching the first few seasons of DS9, and while just damn, she also seems to always have a uniform and have some intelligence and wit and wisdom and all that stuff. Those are the defining characteristics, not her other ones.
But of course, they still had to sprinkle in the whole heterosexual drive with Bashir chasing her for the better part of the first season.
Ugh. Yeah, and then there's some flirting later on. Although we did get Garrick.
Yeah. Andrew Robinson, amazing character and amazing actor with an amazing character. But again, it's one of those things where you take a great actor,
Voted gay as fuck.
Yeah, pretty much. And
all I got to say about that.
Like he's one of the characters that you're just like, is he or isn't he? I don't care. You can be whatever you want, man.
He's probably going to kill somebody in either. He's going to kill somebody either way.
He's the kind of character that I would totally believe if I read that he had killed somebody in a gay bar with a cyanide laced dildo.
I could see Garrick doing that.
Yeah,
he would have no problem doing it.
Exactly, and he probably would have made a sport out of it.
So that brings us to the Kurtzman era, because obviously we had Star Trek take somewhat of a hiatus and a sickening plunge into the Kelvin timeline. And then suddenly Star Trek Discovery dropped with the LGBTQIA smorgasbord of characters.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, let's put it this way. I'm trying to think. I mean, you've got trans characters, you got gay characters, you got interracial couples, you got women commanding everything. Is there even a straight white guy in the cast?
In the cast,
in
the cast,
yes.
Crew.
In the crew, I should say. Not, yeah. I'm sure there's some straight people in the cast, but
you said straight white men in the cast. Yes, there's
one in the crew, I should say.
Right, in the crew, I cannot name one single one that we see in regular rotation, except for maybe, let's see, the character of Ash, who was a Klingon disguised as a human. That was the only, I guess, other than Captain Pike making an appearance, only straight white guy that we saw with any significance. And I mean, that says something. You know, people are like, oh, Star Trek's always woke, and it's got all these woke things. And why do they have to have gay characters? Why do they have to have black women? Why do they have to do this? Why do they have to do that? Who cares? Why do they have to have trans people? They're not people. Why are they allowed to be there? Oh, come on. Like, whatever. Like, kiss my ass, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I for me, as a Gen Xer who grew up in a predominantly heterosexual environment where homophobia was not only accepted, it was encouraged,
damn near celebrated.
Yeah, we now, as old farts, have matured our eyes on society. We may not have matured ourselves because we still laugh at ourselves farting.
We're still 12.
Pretty much. We now openly celebrate that this can be in the mainstream, and it can be that thing that most represented the core of what Star Trek's values have always been.
And plus, if you want a straight white guy commanding starship, we now have Strange New Worlds, which is still a nice diverse cast, but let's be honest, they had legacy straight white characters to start. They had to fit a few legacy white characters in.
Well, yeah, I mean that is true. you have on like, I mean, let's count them out. We have Uhura.
Ike.
We have number one. We have oh, oh my.
We got Pike, number one, and to a lesser degree, Spock's a little is definitely not exactly queer coded anymore because with everybody's sexuality kind of being whatever it is,
Well,
coding kind of disappears when characters are discussing who they're interested in, and it doesn't matter. The gender doesn't exactly matter.
Right.
Thank you, Nurse Chapel.
Right, and the thing is, that's actually very telling because if, like, in interviews with Leonard Nimoy, he said that the reason why when they transitioned away from Pike and went to the Kirk, as the lead and all that stuff, the reason why he transitioned into a character that is much more cold and logical, because if you notice, I mean, anybody who's seen The Cage knows that when Spock sees the little
It's like
the vibrating
this
plant,
is happy.
yeah, and he touches it and he looks at the vibrating plant and he's like, and he smiles, and he does that because everybody else was so serious. He was trying to be, he was trying to be that contrarian
Different.
element, and so when Kirk's brashness came in, he dialed it back, went back the other way. Spock has always been a contrarian character to highlight the fact that he never really belonged, because he never really belonged in the human world. He never belonged in the Vulcan world.
But he fits on the Enterprise.
Yeah, but now that in Strange New Worlds, they have a character. They have him portrayed more as the ice cold logical character again. That is an offset to the fact that the other characters have had their diversity explored much more.
Except in the one episode where the Gorn episode where where he decides to get his rage on, and just damn,
Yeah.
and we get to see him and Chapel trying to help him control those emotions, and she has feelings, but she's also knows she has to do something else.
Yeah, she wants to pawn his fire. Oof.
Yeah, and then even though she kind of swings both ways, because hey, it's what she does.
That's right.
So yeah.
Well.
So yeah, and the last thing that I have to leave us with, even Strange New World, even Lower Decks has finally gotten in on it with although in the Naked Time simulation and in I Excretus, obviously they just threw guys and girls and whatever together, and
oh yeah,
there was all kind shit was on shit was going into other shit.
Come on,
shit.
man,
that's all there was.
We got to see a blurred out Boimler butthole, and that's gotta be the sound clip of the episode, the Boimler blurred out Boimler butthole.
I mean, yeah, just yeah. I mean, they're guys on guys, girls on girls, cats on shacks. Yeah.
Cats on. Oh my god! I thought I had I like you within 30, like less than 30 seconds. You pipped me at the post. So.
And then they beat that with an Exocomp banging an owl dude.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, if you want to see you don't want to see more of that. If you want to hear more about that, you can check out our last episode of Treknicity, where we do the recap on the episode A Perfectly Mathematical Redemption.
Spoiler alert on that one, but just damn.
Yeah.
But I did decide that Beckett Mariner and Jennifer, her Andorian girlfriend, which, if you want a simple example of how far they've come, yeah, they're going out. The other lower deckers are all like, "Ooh, you get this is an important part. Go on and do that," and nothing about oh, it's a girl.
Yeah,
They treat
it as any sexuality is normal
a relationship.
Sexuality. Any
Side note: we are calling them the new Benifer. I have decided that is fact. That is the truth. I am sharing that everywhere. I have now named them Benifer, the new Benifer.
I'll allow it.
Eat it, Affleck.
All right. Well, that is all the progressiveness and wokeness we have for this episode of Treknicity. Thank you to everybody who watches our show. As you can see, there's some stuff down here on here. This is our social media stuff. If you want to contact us and find us and watch other stuff, we would greatly appreciate it. As always, I'm Lars, your host.
I'm Patrick.
And as we encourage you, we order you
in any way you see fit.
We'll see you next time, guys. And girls.